Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about a technique that intimidated me a lot when I first started because I've heard horror stories about how to rig this technique. But once I conquered a simple way of doing it, the drop shot became one of my go-to techniques. So today I'm going to be breaking down the drop shot technique. Before we get started, though, I want to thank all my new subscribers. There's about 200 of y'all in the last few weeks that have come on board and subscribed to the channel. So I want to say thank you. Once again, a round of applause for our new subscribers. Yes, give them a hand. Yup. Thank you for joining the channel, the community. Leave a comment below about why you joined and what you're looking forward to here on the channel. I'd love to hear from you and welcome the community. Now, let's get into the drop shot. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. So as we get started, as always, I'll have everything that I'm using linked in the description box below, so you have easy access to whatever I'm using, whether it's on Amazon or Tackle Warehouse, you can find it easily. So let's first talk about the tackle, the gear that I'm using for a drop shot technique. So for a drop shot, I'm going to be using that 7-foot medium powered spinning rod. I might even go 6'7". If I'm bank fishing, I might go 6'7". You'll see as we rig the drop shot that there's a little extra length to it with the way that it's rigged up. So you may want to go that 6'7" if you're bank fishing, but I like to do my 7-foot or my 7.3 medium powered spinning rod for this. I use my usual finesse setup with my line. So it's a 10-pound high vis braid, right? And then I tie that with a 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. I like that 8 pounds. Sometimes I go 6, but I really like that 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. If you don't know how to tie a leader line, that's okay. I have a video on how to tie a braid to fluorocarbon, a monofilament leader line. I'll link that in the card right up here, but that will help you tie that leader line on. So that's my gear setup. Nothing crazy, my regular finesse setup. Now let's talk about what tackle I use for the drop shot. So first, let's break down the lures that I would like to use for the drop shot. Now my usual go-to drop shot is a Roboworm 6-inch straightail worm. Right, that's my go-to for the usual. That's what I start with, and I might change throughout the day. Another one that I really like is that Roboworm, but in that Margarita Mutilator 3, that little purplish, reddish color. It kills it. Actually, I had a nice day the other day. I went out there, caught a couple nice bass on this drop shot technique with the Margarita Mutilator on it. So the Roboworm 6-inch straightail worm is a great starting point for like a more full-size drop shot technique and drop shot rig. Now, if I want to downsize my drop shot rig, I have 2 options for you. The first one I have here is this power bait Berkley Flatworm, right? I really like this Flatworm. I'm gonna teach you in another video another way I rig this Flatworm that's been really successful. But the first way is a drop shot, right? A drop shot technique will be really good with this, as well as this Junior Crush Worm from Net Bait. Net Bait has been coming up with some really cool baits. This Junior Crush Worm, what color is this? In this dark smelt. Right, I use this a lot when fishing for smallmouth. I use a smell color, but the drop shot works really well for smallmouth and largemouth. I've caught both on this and large numbers, big fish. So drop shot is a great technique, and these are the baits that I usually use with it. Now, when it comes to hooks, there's a few things that I consider. Well, really 2 things. Is there a weeds heavy cover, or is it clear rock, stuff like that? So if I'm going into heavy cover, really big weeds, I will use this hook right here. So Owner Cover Shot HD, right? It's a 1/0 or 2/0 hook right here. This really takes the cake, right? As far as how I rig it, when I use this hook specifically, I will Texas rig the drop shot, and this really comes to cover really well. So before I found this hook, I still rigged it the way I'm gonna teach you next, and I still fished it in heavy weeds and still caught bass with it, right? So you can catch bass with just a regular hook with what I'm going to teach you next. So the other hook that I like to use is a very small, this is a 1/0 Spearpoint Finesse hook. This hook I found recently, and I love this. I use it for my wacky rigs. I use it for drop shotting. The way that the hook is designed really helps with the hookup ratio. And once I've gotten a bass stuck, I need pliers to get this out. Like once a bass is hooked, it is hooked with this Finesse 1/0 Spearpoint hook. So there's 2 ways that I rig a drop shot with the hook, and that is based on what I'm using. So let's break that down real quick. So if I'm using a regular Roboworm with this finesse hook, what I like to do is I'll take this finesse hook and I'll just bury it into the body, but I'll put it right up into the nose, right? So that hook is gonna be almost flush with the nose, just like that. So when I hook it like this, it comes through everything, and as soon as that bass gets it, it is hooked right away. So I really enjoy hooking it this way with the Spearpoint hook. Now, I mentioned this before, I love the Roboworm, but it does not last long. So after I do it this way and it breaks apart, I'll take it out, right? I'll put it a little bit farther down, and I'll put it all the way through. So I kind of just work my way down as much as I can, hooking it until I can't use it anymore, until it's split down the middle, and then I switch my Roboworm. But this is one way that I like to hook my Roboworm and my drop shot up. Now, if I was fishing in heavy cover and I was using this Overshot HD, I would Texas rig this Roboworm. So I would obviously put the hook right through the nose, bring it out through the body, all the way up, turn it. Right, once I get here, I'll just bury this hook right into the body, right? And it'll look straight up like this, okay? This is how I like to use that Roboworm, just like this, right? If I'm using heavy cover, really good way to do it. And then once I break through, I'll just push the hook all the way through, right? And then try to put some of that skin right back on it so it's a little more weedless. But I try to get the most that I can out of these Roboworms because they're really good baits, but like I said, they don't really last crazy long. So these are the two ways that I hook up my drop shot with these hooks. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this technique really intimidated me. And the big reason why, because every video I watch had this 20 or 30 step tutorial on how to rig and tie the drop shot. Because when you tie it, you want that hook to be really straight up and down and perpendicular, right? And when you don't tie it right, it becomes hard for the drop shot to really work. And tying that knot like really intimidated me, until I found a simple and easy way to do it. All right, so now I'm gonna show you how I tie on this drop shot. So the first thing I do, I'm gonna put this line through my hook. I can't see a thing, boy, I can't see a thing. All right, now I'm gonna double it back. So if you are familiar with the Palomar knot, that's what I'm tying first, right? I'm going in twice, backwards and forwards, right? And I'm gonna tie a Palomar knot. So you go through the eye of the hook twice, then you take your loop, and you tag in the main line, you tie an overhand knot. Bumba. Which I can see right now. So overhand knot, right? And then after you have this loop, after your overhand knot, you're gonna take this loop and put the whole hook back through that loop, lubricating line, as always, right? And then pull. So once that's done, that's the beginning of your Palomar knot. Now, as usual, there's a tag end whenever you tie a knot, right? The difference with the drop shot and the easiest way to do this is once you have this, make sure your knot is at the top of your hook. And then once you have this, you're gonna take this tag end and you're gonna put it back through the hook. So making sure that point is up top, put it back through the hook. And when you do that, you create that really perpendicular shape that you're looking for that drop shot. So once it's up and ready, look at that. That's ready to go. So that is the easiest way I've seen to tie a drop shot. It works every time. It's super simple. And I always get my line exactly where I need it. With the drop shot technique, there is going to be a weight at the bottom of this line. How I choose my weight is based on where I'm fishing. Now, I always go with the Swagger Tungsten. Swagger Tungsten. I always go with their drop shot weights. I go with the little ball weights here, right? The teardrop weights. I either go 1/4 ounce or an 1/8 ounce. If I'm fishing real deep, I'll go 1/4 ounce. If I'm fishing shallow, I'll fish with an 1/8 ounce, right? And I love these Swagger Tungsten weights because you just take them on right here. You put it through the hook, or you put it through the eye of the weight, and then you snap it on, boom, and you're ready to go. Right now, I can go drop shotting right now. So when do you fish this drop shot? The drop shot is a very summertime technique. So you talk about spawn, right around now, when now even in New York, it's getting hot. I was mowing my lawn this afternoon and I was sweating, right? So around now, is the time to fish that drop shot, because the bass are one of two places. After they spawn, they have to be moving out deep, or they're finding shallow cover, right? So drop shot can work in either one of those scenarios. It can fish in shallow, get you that 1/4 ounce weight, and you fish it nice and shallow. That's what I did this weekend. I fished that drop shot shallow, and I found some bass that was still hanging up shallow, still undercover, still finding that shade. And I got a nice big one out of that, right? Or if you're in 16 feet of water, 20 feet of water, you can still throw that drop shot out there and let it sink to the bottom, right? The drop shot is a very versatile technique. When I first started fishing, I didn't think it was that versatile, but I went out last year, I remember, and I found this reservoir that was so weedy, but I threw that drop shot out there and I was pulling bass out of these thick weeds with 10-pound test, 8-pound fluorocarbon, a Finesse 1/0 Spearpoint hook, and I was pulling these bass out of those weeds. So you can do it. You don't need all these fancy equipment. You don't need all the fancy tools. You need the bare minimum, the simple things that are effective, right? So hopefully this drop shot tutorial was helpful for you. I know the drop shot has been really fun for me to use over the last year or so. It's become one of my go-to techniques. So hopefully this made it easy for you to fish the drop shot this year. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Leave a like. I'd love to hear from you. I got a lot of people asking me questions. I got people just giving me some encouraging words as I continue to grow this channel, and all are welcome. Even the constructive criticism and feedback, I'll take it. Help me become better so I can help other people become better bass anglers. I'll see you in the next video.